My name is Debbie Cockrell. I represent an organization called Slovo Centre of Excellence. We are a non-profit organization. We really focus on play-based learning methods for children, making sure that we provide a fun and safe environment for children to thrive in under what we've set up at the moment called a toy library. Our key focus areas are play for children. We work with kids from the age of 2 all the way up to about 15, 16 years old, boys and girls. The communities we work with are Slovo Park, Informal Settlement, Katrada Park, Westbury, Hursthill and surrounding areas. Based on the community that we work in, we actually bring groups of children in to come and play dates at the centre. This is my mom Lorraine. She's the founder of the organization 15 years ago. What was one of the main things that you found that was a need when you started the organization?
I think one of the biggest things was really just to be able to make a contribution towards our democracy. How could I come along, or we come along, and do something? We all didn't fight in the struggle, but we can all build towards the freedom of our democracy. This is really what I really wanted to do, was to be able to come alongside and see how I could make a difference.
Since discovered over our last couple of years in the journey towards sustainability is that the educational crisis in South Africa is very real. Unfortunately, our educational system is not meeting some of the needs within our communities based on the immense diversity, limited and lack of resources within our schools. We have since established a toy library, really aims to provide a space for children in impoverished environments where they can learn, have fun, play, as well as be exposed to activities that they would not normally have access to. We also work very closely with creches within our environment who don't have access to jungle gyms, Lego, any kind of play and toy resources. Through the programs that we offer, we're able to engage children through play-based learning methods. The child is actually able to learn quicker because there's repetition involved, there's an element of play involved, which is their language, their emotional language. And so for us to recognize that in our method, and there are many organizations and schooling systems who do recognize this and who do integrate it, but sometimes it's at that more sort of affluent space where, you know, the academics within schools like that have studied it and they're now able to implement it. And you find in environments where the poverty is rife and socioeconomic challenges are real, children don't always get those extra bit of tools.
Very, very powerful, and you know, something that unless people were perhaps lucky or privileged to come from those background might not get. Tell me, what kind of things have you seen in the kids that coming through the centre? What difference have you seen
So a very simple example for us, Rashid, is we work with one particular creche in an informal settlement in Slovo Park where our name is birthed. And there's a lady, which is a senior lady, so she would be referred to as Gogo. And Gogo looks after, is a caretaker for about 15 children for the day. And she's in her little hut, and mom and dad have gone off to work, maybe to clean houses or to wash buses so that they can earn. And so they'd leave their little toddler with Gogo for the day. What happens is that there's actually no stimulation for that child in that environment. They're literally being taken care of so that they're not on the street. What we would then do is partner with that lady and bring those children in through our support systems with a shuttle. We would offer them a snack because often we find nutrition to be a huge challenge. Children that are living on a basic maize meal. There's no fruit, there's no vegetables sort of intake, so healthy mind, healthy body, very important. And we would have a play date. We would have a 2-hour play date with these little toddlers. You'd find that as they arrive, they're very sort of quiet and almost a little bit glazed in their facial expression, you know, no emotion, quite lost in where they are at this amazing venue. And we would welcome them warmly, we would do a couple of sing-alongs, and then we would break them up into smaller groups of maybe eight at a time. And we would have different activities happening for that 8 for about 30 minutes. So they would have cognitive development, they would have Lego building, they could do some puzzles, some arts and crafts, some outdoor stimulation where they can run and jump and play. And all these different elements are actually part of brain development. So simple things like an outdoor game where you're catching a ball. That is teaching an immense skill, which comes down to balance, which comes down to how children are able to interact with their hand and eye coordination. And you're actually developing a skill of fine motor skills, which eventually helps with holding a pen, which eventually helps with writing skills later down the journey. So what we found in that 2-hour little play date is a child who's transformed from a sort of glazed, very inactive child into a sparkly, bright-eyed, waving, excited child. We stimulated them.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Even in that first session, you'll see a huge change.
If you provide the environment for them, they blossom.
Love in action, deep compassion. Love in action, deep compassion.
Do you hear stories about their ongoing development in terms of their schooling, or how they then flourish beyond that?
Absolutely, Rashid. We've been at this for a number of years, and when I joined the organization about 7 years ago, I really attached to a group of young girls who were about 9 years old, and I call them my shining stars. And they now in their early high school kind of journeyed with them from primary school part of their career. So I've come into high school, and we've now had to actually start over the last 3 years a computer literacy program for children, which is inspired by these young girls. Their careers are starting to need a little bit of direction. And what we find once again is that children don't have access. If there's no one providing that in the home, where else is it coming from? So we started our computer literacy program, and we've got about 4 particular girls that have been with us since they were about 6-7 years old. They're now about 14, 15, 16. And they have blossomed into the most incredible young ladies, where they've now started choosing their subject at school, which are computer-based subjects that they carry through with them until the end of their matric year. The level that they are at, when we look at them to some of our newer beginners that maybe would have started last year, it's worlds apart. So it's really shown us that we can't necessarily measure the value of what we've done in a graph of 80% this and 60% that, but we can see it in the blossoming of the child. We can see it in how they are able to adapt into their schooling environment and flourish because they've got that extra bit of support. Wait for the day where I can host an interview with some of our girls and our boys and ask them, how has their journey been with us? Because you would have to experience it from their side. We looking at it from the providing support space, but it would be interesting to hear from them as well.
Love in action, deep compassion. Love in action, deep compassion. Love in higher consciousness.
7, 8, 9, 10,
You can say over the years of the development of the organization, have you seen many changes happening over the 15-year span of your involvement in community work?
Oh yes, there's been amazing changes. The need is still very great, but we definitely have seen in one of our after-school care centers that we've run, our children who could not speak English very well were able to come to our after-school care, and we were able to then coach them through our programs that we ran. We were able to see that we could give them a warm plate of food. We were able to love and nurture in black food, and this is something that was just God-given, and it was just so wonderful to be able to do this to the children that came to our project.
And this year we're super excited because we have discovered a shero in our very own community within Coronationville. Her name is Naran Gain, and she runs an incredible feeding scheme in the community that we also service, where our children come from.
Well, Hunger Has No Religion started about 7 years ago. We started with a very, very small amount of people. That was about 150, and then it reached to 450. and we moved the whole project to my house. Right now we're standing on about 800 to 900 a day. We try and cook wholesome meals. Like today we're actually doing some samp and beans.
My name is Zubair Raoud. I'm the youngest worker here. I'm 13 years old and I really like working at the soup kitchen. We come early in the morning, we help cook, and in the afternoon we give out the food. It's a very nice experience. Some of the people are really in need. We feed that need.
And what has been amazing about this pandemic time is that we've seen somebody putting their love into action.
Love in action, deep compassion. Love in action, deep compassion. Love and higher consciousness.
Found that a lot of these kids did not have necessarily a support system within the home. You know, the school can only do so much when the teacher's sitting with 60 children in our classroom. So that's why we've really identified educational support as the component. There's an acronym called SPICE, and SPICE stands for very much our holistic strategy towards working with kids. The S is social and spiritual, the P is for physical, always making sure that there's some form of nourishment, a meal with snack available. The I is for intellectual. All the different games and activities that we have are based on brain development, but in a fun and playful manner. And then the C stands for creative, which is really exposing children to music, the arts, a little bit of sports as well. And then the E, which we find is actually our most important role at the moment, is for emotional well-being, making sure that children feel loved and that they feel safe in the environment that we work. If you provide the environment for them, they blossom.
Do you hear stories about their ongoing development in terms of their schooling, or how they then flourish beyond that?
Absolutely, Rashid. We've been at this for a number of years, and when I joined the organization about 7 years ago, I really attached to a group of young girls who were about 9 years old, and I call them my shining stars. And they now in their early high school, kind of journeyed with them from primary school part of their career. So I've come into high school, and we've now had to actually start over the last 3 years a computer literacy program for children, which is inspired by these young girls. Their careers are starting to need a little bit of direction. And what we find once again is that children don't have access. If there's no one providing that in the home, where else is it coming from? So we started our computer literacy program, and we've got about 4 particular girls that have been with us since they were about 6-7 years old. They're now about 14, 15, 16. And they have blossomed into the most incredible young ladies, where they've now started choosing their subjects at school, which are computer-based subjects that they carry through with them until the end of their matric year. The level that they are at, when we look at them to some of our newer beginners that maybe would have started last year, it's worlds apart. So it's really shown us that we can't necessarily measure the value of what we've done in a graph of 80% this and 60% that, but we can see it in the blossoming of the child. We can see it in how they are able to adapt into their schooling environment and flourish because they've got that extra bit of support. Wait for the day where I can host an interview with some of our girls and our boys and ask them, how has their journey been with us? Because you would have to experience it from their side. We looking at it from the providing support space, but it would be interesting to hear from them as well. Areas for us for the year 2020 ahead is really to collaborate, be it private or from the corporate environment, and see how we can invest and build towards the educational journey for children.
Special thank you goes out to Deborah Cockrell of Slovo Centre of Excellence. Debs has been wonderful. She's been helping us with our Mandela Day function on Saturday. We're expecting about 2,000 people on Saturday, so she's been trying to raise more awareness for us. So thank you so much to you, Deborah. You've really been a star. You've been an angel sent to us.
But Happy Stance Yoga Therapy and co-founder of Pause to Breathe, a platform that has been created to support women, elderly, children, everyone who is in need of support, inspired by Slovo Centre of Excellence in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Hunger Has No Religion in Johannesburg as well. These charities have been a true source of inspiration for Happy Stance Yoga Therapy and Pause to Breathe. I have been following the efforts that these two charities have putting into providing meals regarding food, Hunger Has No Religion, and then of course the education, Slovo Centre of Excellence, education, a toy library for children from underprivileged circumstances. My friend Lee from Red Lotus Retreats and Events and I have decided to fully get involved into manifesting support and finding donors, sponsors, people who would really live up to those values of these two charities. And this is to end the poverty and end the hunger. And then, of course, to provide education and well-being, physical and mental well-being for children, women, mothers, elderly, everyone in society. So therefore, I would really ask you to support these two charities and to support our programs, because we definitely need to understand that we are all one world, and that only by living together, working together, we can actually have an inner fulfillment and make a big change in this world.
My name is Lee Taylor. I've been working with Slovo Centre of Excellence and with Hunger Has No Religion, helping to create some more awareness about the project and the wonderful, wonderful work that they're doing. And it's such a privilege, it's a really, really rare privilege to be working with women and with an organisation, both organisations that are so full of integrity and really wonderful moral and ethical values to support the community out of the goodness of their hearts, and really uplifting society and the community and also each individual. I think that Slovo Centre of Excellence forms a really fundamental part of bringing real value and real richness to the community and really enriching young minds. And you know, I remember some of the fondest memories I have is when I was a little girl and I was able to go to nursery school, and all of those fundamental good learnings that I was privileged to be able to experience that made such a huge impact on my education and on everything, those foundational blocks that every human being depends on. And I think those fundamentals, those real building blocks that are so essential to every human being's development, is so utterly essential to help and support to develop. Without that, one can't really thrive as a human being, and one can't really thrive as a society without that absolute necessity of education as a key starting point in life. What's so beautiful is about the collaboration between Slovo Centre of Excellence and also Hunger Has No Religion, where they're really looking at every part of every young human being's welfare and well-being on an emotional level, but also on a physical level, for nourishing their bodies, their minds, and also helping to stimulate the mind to be able to create that real space of learning and being excited about learning. So I just wanted to give my support, and whatever kind of way I can help to support them and encourage the wonderful work that they're doing. I think that it's so important, especially in South Africa, in a country like South Africa where there isn't a lot of support, where it's not easy always for especially people from impoverished communities or those that are in vulnerable situations, to be able to have access to education and to provide that safe space of nourishing and nurturing for every individual. I cannot emphasize enough how utterly important it is to be able to support these kinds of communities and these kinds of incentives and these kinds of endeavors that make a fundamental difference to our society.
I'm Justin van Eyck, and I'd like to just give a shout out and endorsement to Hunger Has No Religion and the Slovo Centre of Excellence, all the vital work that they do in the Coronation Hall, Slovo Park area. They've been working tirelessly for years to bring quality education and feeding to the deserving and yet underprivileged members of the society there who need the first chances to grow, to be supported so that they can learn in a way that's accessible to them and gives them the proper head start so when they join school they're up to speed, they may be even ahead of their peers. And I just wanted again to say thank you so much to them for all their amazing work. They are such a vital key to our country, developing our country and developing our nation. I'd like to really highlight what great role models they are in this society, how they are the pillars and the cornerstones of the society. They can give the kids' parents, their families really not only the quality education, but they're also to learn how to be good, wholesome, collaborative, kind people. All these great qualities that help the children develop.
Love and higher consciousness, love in action, deep compassion, love in action, deep compassion, love in action, deep